Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes they say with events or different events that you maybe have been a part of, they save the best for last. And as great as this event has been on Friday, Saturday, if you're sitting here as a potential assistant manager or all set up to be an assistant manager this summer, I think it's clear to say that we've saved some of the best for last for you. Drew Frank is going to be running a 2-hour workshop here on the AM program and some insights that are going to make a big difference for you to have your most successful summer yet in Vector. I'm going to have the opportunity to introduce Drew to the entire audience later this morning as he wraps up this event. But I want to share a few things with you about Drew before we begin. I've had an opportunity to know Drew now almost over this last decade and to see him move forward in our business with his involvement and success where he was in Pennsylvania to coming out here and really lighting some of the Vector world on fire with the results that not only he's gained here working with his wonderful team in Denver, but also with his Rocky Mountain division. And in spending time with Drew, one of the things that you take away is how strong to the core he is with the fundamentals of the organization. I've had the opportunity to work closely with Don Frieda, who is the founder of Vector. And spending time with Drew Frank really reminded me of my conversations that I would have with Don Frieda about the key concepts of working with people and making programs work. In my career, I've had the opportunity to see some people do really, really well in our company. But one of the reasons why some people did well is because they were based on personality. And they could light up a room and they could make big things happen in a short period of time and get people excited and sell a lot of knives. But what they lacked was the ability to transfer those skill sets so that other people could become really successful too. Because other people couldn't become those people. They had to just make it up on their own. They didn't have programs to follow. What you get with Drew Frank is someone that not only has a charisma and a style and a personality that's strong, but what he brings to the table, which is so wonderful for his division, for his Southwest region, and for our entire corporation, are programs to follow that if you follow, you'll do great too. And that's why he's been a tremendous asset to our entire corporation. And even in Canada, we model many of the trainings that Drew perfects and works with in the Southwest region because we can follow the program and have success, not just be as cool as Drew. Not only is Drew accomplished in our company, but he's accomplished in many things he likes to do outside. He's a spectacular tennis player, and we love to enjoy playing tennis together. He's training for an Ironman, his first one in September. And that definition of constant, never-ending improvement, of being the best version of himself, is something he aspires for all the time. I just had the pleasure to talk with some people in his organization on the way to breakfast. And we talked about one of the great things that Drew does too is he finds people's sweet spot. And I shared that last night. And in Vector, there's so many sweet spots. Being a sales rep, fairs and shows, CSPs, branch, assistant district, he really works to find someone's sweet spot where they're going to where they'll have the best chance to succeed. With all that being said, one of the reasons why Drew does so well, he's just a really good guy that really likes to help people. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our division manager of the Rocky Mountain Division, Denver office manager, Mr. Drew Frank.
Good morning. Thank you, Joe. And you know what I love about our business is that, Joe talked about, giving back and loving to teach. And the reason why I do it is because I spent my first, however many years in the business learning from guys like Joe and all of my mentors. And that's what our company is all about, is giving back. I mean, you look at, Josh and Curtis and all the CSPs who were speakers of this event. And that's all right, they've got plenty of them. You look at, the greats in our business, whether it's the sales rep position or managers, and everybody loves to teach, and it's all about paying it forward. So the goal is that after this event, you go back and you inspire and motivate and mentor, the up and coming reps in your office, the up and coming managers in your office. So I love to teach, and the reason I love to teach because it reinforces my beliefs, and the more I talk about it, the more I reaffirm the things in my head. So the next 2 hours, I hope you get a lot of benefit out of it, but in a selfish way, this is me just reminding myself about how I'm going to mentor and train and coach reps this summer. So whether you get anything out of this or not, I don't care, because this is more for me than it is for you. That's my way of taking the pressure off. But anyway, welcome to the third day. Good event so far? Yeah. All right. Well, I'm fired up for this event. Two things I want to start off with. One is you learned a lot of things over the past couple of days. Overwhelming, mind-blowing. Who's a little bit overwhelmed with all the content that you got? So imagine if you were at zero in sales, you had never done a presentation before, and you learned everything that you just learned over the past 2 days, you would probably have an aneurysm. So my request to you would be to not teach anything that you learned over the past couple of days to brand new reps this summer. As assistant managers and sales managers and branch managers, oftentimes we get excited to overteach. And overteaching is actually more detrimental to a new rep than underteaching. As soon as you start teaching something outside of the training manual, so for me, with our new reps, until somebody gets to $10,000 in sales, it's read the manual, get really excited about Cutco, cut food, and smile. Like, that's it. It's just repetition and passion, and that's what we teach for new rep training and rep development, is just repetition and passion. We never teach anything outside of the manual, because as soon as you start teaching something outside of the training manual, then your reps will start to think that everything that you told them was a lie and there's something else. Because then they're going to start thinking, well, what else do I not know? What else do I not know about closing? What else do I not know about recommendations? And then they start to question everything you've taught them before. And then also everything you want to coach them with, they say, well, is that really true, or is there something else? So be careful to not overteach, because the things that you learn from the top CSPs in the nation, you need to be at a certain level of understanding, which you guys are at, to really appreciate it, and also not to go crazy. So that's one. The second thing that I want to say before we really dive in is that you've been learning a lot of high-level skills, CSP skills, and you're learning from the greatest reps to ever touch a petite carver. I mean, Josh Moeller, Curtis Jacques, all the speakers that you've had, with Joe and the national staff here, they are the greatest human beings to ever hold a wedge lock handle in the palm of their hand. And you're probably inspired that, to sell big. And then now at this session, you're learning how to become an even better assistant manager or sales manager or branch manager. So you probably have some conflicting thoughts right now of saying, is management for me, or is CSP for me? What direction do I want to go? And the beauty about our business is that you don't have to choose, at least not right away. And back in the day, I used to think, well, do I want to go the management path, or do I want to go the sales path? And the answer is both. You should be doing both. And you should not choose. You never have to choose, because if you're a CSP, or one of the best ever like Josh and Curtis, they're still teaching. Their leadership and their management skill is just as important as a branch manager or a district manager. And for assistant managers, you have to sell, because if you're not selling at a very high level, you can't influence your reps in a very powerful way. As soon as somebody is selling more than you and more consistent than you, your influence is diminished by a significant amount. So in order to be influential, you have to be leading in sales. And I want to recognize Jake Bergman. Jake, if you can stand up for me. This is Jake Bergman. He's my pilot sales manager, and I don't think there are any other pilot sales managers in the company who sell as much as Jake does. And Jake was texting me last night. He said, can you release me for SC2? I really want to, hit $25,000, $30,000 in sales for SC2 push. And I didn't respond to him, and he knows what that means, because I need him in the office. But I'll let him sell a bit. But the point is, he's so passionate about both sides of the business, managing and leading and influencing reps, as well as leading by example with his sales. He was an All-American Scholarship winner for the fall campaign, I think number 8 in the nation for the fall campaign, as well as as being a full-time student and a full-time sales manager. This summer as a pilot sales manager, he's going to be in 6 days a week in the office, 14 hours a day. And then for the one day that he's out of the office, his requirement is that he has to do 5 demos a day. So he doesn't get any time off, and he's going to be leading by example with sales. His goal is to not let any of our other assistant managers beat him in sales this summer. So the point is, you don't have to choose. Jake ran a branch office last summer. He was one of the top in the nation, and he was an All-American Scholarship winner, sold over $60,000 last year. So the point is, you can do both. You never have to choose. So don't put that pressure on yourself. And if anybody tries to put that pressure on you, the answer is, I'm going to do both, because I'm going to be a better manager because I'm selling a lot, and I'm going to sell a lot more because of my management skills. So I want to kick it off with that. If it's okay with you today, I want this session, and I'm gonna really annoy the camera guy because I'm gonna be pacing the entire. I can't stand still, so I apologize. You're gonna get some arthritis in the shoulder soon. But I want to, if it's okay with you, I'd like this session to be completely teaching. I'd like it to be all content. You've been inspired and motivated for the past couple days. I don't think that you have any more room for inspiration right now. So if you're comfortable with it, I just want to dive in and talk about high-level rep management skills and working with reps. Is that cool? Yeah. All right. Who here was at the Southwest Region Kickoff Conference a couple weeks ago and was in my breakout session for managing reps? There will be some overlap in the content that I deliver today, but my belief is that the more you hear it, the more you reaffirm it, the more practice, the better you'll be at it. So, in every area of our business, you have to repeat things at least 3 times for it to sink in. When you first hear something, somebody just hears it. With the second time you say something, they understand it, and the third time you say something, they're committed to it. So that rule happens in every area of our business. So let's say, for example, you want to confirm somebody for a phone jam. Has anybody ever confirmed a rep for a phone jam and then they just didn't show up, or confirmed somebody for a PC and didn't show up? It's because you probably only reminded them once or twice, but you have to say everything 3 times for it to sink in. For those of you, I know a couple of you mentioned you've watched my training videos, and you hear the same things over and over and over again. I repeat myself constantly in training because it's all about the fundamentals. When I say a rep should show their best 5 customers their first weekend, I say that about 20 or 30 times during training, because I want somebody to leave training and understand that the only thing that matters is showing their best 5 customers in their first weekend. Whether it's conference attendance or showing up to a team meeting or a phone jam, everything in our business has to be repeated over and over. So for those of you that this is a little bit of overlap, or those of you who have heard this content before, good. You should, and you should watch the video on repeat. And that's not to, I'm not saying that to impress you or to pat myself on the back, but it's really important to just keep on refreshing the fundamentals in your mind. So I guess thank you for being here and showing your commitment to yourself, to your division, to your office, your region. It really makes a huge difference. And I'll tell you, from a division manager perspective, the fact that you're here means that you're going to be targeted for very high-level positions, whether that's branch territories or CSP opportunities, fair and show program. You're going to have many opportunities because of showing your commitment to be here. So it really means a lot to your manager and also your division manager. So I started in 2003. This is my 13th year with Vector. I was 18 years old, right out of high school. Both of my brothers sold Cutco before I did, so I was the 3rd Frank brother to sell Cutco. I was the worst of the 3. I sold, my middle brother started a month before I did, and he sold a homemaker to my best friend's mom the night before I started. He did that just to piss me off. But my first summer, I only worked for about 6 weeks. I sold $16,000 worth of Cutco, so I didn't break any records. I was just a decent rep, but what was key for me was just consistency. I was never the top rep in my office, but I was always in the top 10 or top 5. I sold $2,000 to $3,000 a week every single week, no matter what. I was never under that $2,000 mark for that summer. Went away to school, came back as an assistant manager the next summer, and I was a full-time assistant manager 6 days a week in the office. And one of the things that was really important to me was selling and leading by example. I had 1 day off a week. I worked 6 days a week. Back then, the structure for assistant managers was a little bit different. It was more like an internship, so the pay from the office was like almost non-existent, and then but I was working a ton, learned a ton, and then I had one day to sell, and I made a commitment to doing a minimum of 4 demos every day that I had off. I realized that I needed to prove myself. I didn't deserve a day off, especially over the summertime. You don't deserve a day off. Nobody deserves anything in life. You get what you put in, and there's no such thing as I've earned time off or I need to relax. No, you don't. You're like 18, 20, 22, 25, 30, however old you are. You don't need time off. That's crap. So I worked 7 days a week, but on my days off, I had a grand day every single time. And my second summer, my first summer as an AM, I had a streak of 11 weeks in a row. And on my day off, every single week, I had a grand day. And I needed to do that because I knew that the only way I could be influential in my office was to lead by example with sales. Because if I was running an interview, how can I really promote the opportunity if I wasn't selling and experiencing it myself? I can't say Vector's incredible, the pay structure's great, it's a fun culture and a great environment if I wasn't really living that life. PCs, how could I tell somebody to get on the phone if I wasn't willing to get on the phone and jam out for 3 or 4 hours myself? How could I tell somebody that they should do 7 demos or 10 demos or 15 demos a week if I wasn't willing to do the same thing myself? So selling and leading by example was extremely important. That's how I was able to be influential as an assistant manager. I was an AM for 4 years. There was no branch program. The 2 years that I could have been a branch, the company took it away for a few years and then brought it back out. But I was unfortunately unable to run my own branch office. So I was an assistant manager for 2 years, and then a sales manager, and then a pilot sales manager. And those were tough years. I put in a lot of hours. I worked 14 hours a day. I also lived an hour away from my office, so I had 2 hours of commuting every day. And then on my days off, I sold. So, for me, the summertime was putting in all my time and energy, and it allowed me to have 8 months of vacation. For me, school was a vacation because you guys know after a Vector summer, school is really easy. I mean, managing your schedules, like, I'm only in class like 4 hours today. Like, what do I do with the rest of my time? Sometimes it's difficult. As Vector people, we're so used to working so much that when we have free time, we don't know what to do with it. We're like, this is weird. What should I do? I sit? Do I stay? Like, so I worked really hard in those 4 years, and one of the things that you have to realize as an assistant manager is that you're putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort, but a lot of your effort is behind the scenes. My assistant managers will tell you that they work their tails off, but who gets the recognition? I do. Deal with it, run your own office. My name's on all the trophies, I'm on all the reports, but they do a lot of work. But what you're doing is you're investing your time, you're investing your energy to open up opportunities for you for the future. And when I was an assistant manager for 4 years in college, part of me, the immature side of me thought, oh, I'm overworked and undervalued. And then the mature side of me realized that these are incredible life skills. Whether I stick with Vector long term or I'm just doing it now, I'm learning like CEO mentality skills. I'm learning how to run a business. I'm learning incredible skills for life, interviewing skills, communication skills, one-on-one, motivational skills. Whether you're a teacher, a psychologist, a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, anything that you do in life, you're going to be motivating and inspiring a team. Nobody, whatever industry you're in, you're going to be the leader in that industry. You know that, right? If you're a doctor, you're going to be leading the floor. If you're a nurse, you're going to be leading the team. If you are an engineer, you're going to be in charge of the projects, because when you have Vector skills, you're automatically a leader. And those are the things that I learned as an assistant manager. I loved being an assistant manager. It was my favorite part of Cutco, and that's when I first met Joe back when I was in Northeast Region at different events, that it's incredible that those memories from your early years in Vector, and Joe will tell you, and the veterans will tell you, those are things that stick forever. And I really look back and I appreciate those years more than the years when I was top district manager in the company or top division manager in the company. And income and awards and recognition aside, it's really about the experience. And being an assistant manager is the greatest experience in Vector, because you get to lead, you get to inspire, and of course lead by example with sales. As an assistant manager, I met some of my closest friends. Some of my best friends today are my peers from when I was an assistant manager over a decade ago. I loved the experiences of push weeks and phone jams and giving talks at team meetings. I loved the maturing process and the personal growth. I loved the resume skills that I gained. I had more experience in my resume as a freshman at Penn State than, any of the seniors at Penn State. And it was, I talked to my advisor. She's like, "What are you doing after graduation?" I was like, "I don't know. This is my fall semester of freshman year." And I thought that was pretty impressive to have my resume built up like that. I love that the Vector culture is a family, and the CSP opportunity is absolutely incredible, but there's something special about being in management and having that camaraderie and that family feel. I loved the advancement opportunities. I love that Vector doesn't judge somebody based on age, on gender, on race, on where you're from, what your parents do for a living, how much money you have in the bank. All we care about is work ethic and attitude, and you have every opportunity to move up. I love the trips. I've traveled the world for free on Vector. I mean, this spring I've been out of state and out of country just as many days as I've been in state. I've been to several countries this spring already, and in the Bahamas and on Caribbean cruise and in London and Prague, and I've been all over the place. And those opportunities aren't available in very many other places aside from Vector. I loved the sense of accomplishment as a Vector rep, or as an assistant manager. I loved being able to see somebody sell their first homemaker. That management is right for you when you get sometimes more excited about other people's sales than you do for your own sales. And that's really the sign that management is right for you, especially after you sit down for a PC. I love, when Jake, he'll have a PC with the rep, he'll coach them and teach them. They'll go out, they'll sell a set, and I just get the most fired up text messages from Jake, about how proud he is of his reps and how he's able to influence them. And then when he sells his own stuff, he's like, ultimate set, cookware, flatware, Cutco kitchen. And he's way more excited about other people's success than he is about his. And that's a positive sign. If you don't like seeing other people succeed, you should probably just be a CSP. All right, I'm going to cut out the fluff here. You don't need to know. You don't care about this. Okay. I want to talk about the flow of the summer, and I want to talk about the what's called the momentum funnel. This is really important for. I'm going to teach this, but I'm going to teach it in two ways. One is how the summer flows, and then the second part of this is how you're for working with reps, and this is called the momentum funnel. And let's see if I have. You don't have it in your handouts, so I apologize for that, but the momentum funnel is a 4-week process, and the way that I think about that is over the summertime. I'll relate it to May through August for the summer, but also for reps. So this is called a momentum funnel, and the idea is that as time goes on, the energy you put in decreases, or the effort you put in decreases, while the result increases. So it's kind of like the inverted triangles here. But I'm not the artist, so I'm not going to use them up here. But I'm just going to explain that we've got May, we've got June, we've got July, and August. So these are the 4 months of the summer, and I know every region breaks a little bit differently, but the idea is that in May, you're putting in the maximum amount of effort in May. And basically, you're pulling back the slingshot. And as an assistant manager, it's important to realize that you're putting in maximum amount of effort in May, but your result, and we're just, for lack of a better term, we're just going to say zero result. Now, you'll have some sales and some offices get off to a good start, but in general, you're putting in a ton of energy and you're getting nothing in return. At this point in May, we're just going to be pulling back the slingshot. So realize that you're going to be putting in a ton of hours. You're going to be early mornings, like 6 a.m. flyering and handing out business cards on college campuses for finals. You're going to be late at night at movie theaters handing out flyers. You're going to be calling PRs all day. You're going to be working working your tail off nonstop, and at the end of the night, you're gonna hit the pillow and you're just gonna be out like a light. You're gonna be exhausted with how much you're working. And then at the end of the week, your paycheck is going to be basically the commissions you made off your sales that week. That's what your paycheck will be. And you have to realize that's part of the process, because what sometimes assistant managers, especially new assistant managers, they don't realize that you've got to put in the effort to get the result later. So you're investing your time, and it will even out. In fact, obviously it's inverted because we make more in vector than the normal person for what we do for our time spent, because we're paid based off our value, not our time. So realize that as an assistant manager, you're not paid off your time, you're paid off your value. And the value that you put in with May is going to earn you the big paychecks in June, July, and August. Also realize that you are an executive. You are a CEO of your own sales business, but you are on the board of directors of your office. You are a stock owner. You're a stockholder and you're an owner of your individual organization. So as an assistant manager, you're paid a percentage of your office sales. So that means that you own that office. Everything that you do influences the office sales, influences your paycheck, and influences your peers' paychecks. So if you're an assistant manager and you want to work more, work harder, because you influence your own paycheck. You know, if you want to have bigger paychecks, well, help your office recruit a ton of people, because the more you recruit, the more you sell, the bigger your paycheck is. So you really have an intense, role, or an intense, role in your office and influence in your office. So if you were on the board of directors for a Fortune 500 company, how much effort would you put in? Right? If you were on the board for Google or Apple, and you had to sit at that conference table, and you were in charge, you were one of the owners of those big companies, how would you wake up every day? You know, would you take breaks during the day, and would you be on Facebook all day, checking people's posts? Would you be looking at sales reports to see how everybody else is doing? Or would you be working your tail off to build up your company? And that's the way you have to go into this summer, that you are an owner of your business, and everything that happens in your office is a reflection of you. So again, in May, it's maximum effort and zero return. It's not going to be zero, but assume zero. Any return that you get is icing on the cake, and it should be a surprise. In June, you're still putting in a ton of effort. Maybe not as much as May, but you're putting in a ton of effort, but a little bit less, and you're getting some return. So in June, you get some return. You get some solid sales, and again, some offices might be bigger than others, but in general, you'll get some return. You'll be like, okay, cool. I'm seeing and reaping the rewards of my hard work. In July, you're putting in some good effort, but for most of you in July, you have SC2 push, and your manager is going to say, get out of my office, get your sample kit out, and go sell, right? So you're probably only going to be in the office for half the month, and the rest of the month, you're going to be out doing demos. So you're putting in some effort, mostly in the front end of the month, and then you're getting a ton of return. Because the return is all of your reps that you've been recruiting over the past 2 months are now selling big, and you're reaping the rewards from that. You're not even going to be in the office most of the time, and you're still going to be getting paychecks off the office. So now that's when you start seeing the return on your investment from May and June. And then in August, if your manager doesn't kick you out of the office and say, just go sell, go do demos, and get out of my face, because they're going to be sick of you by that point. If they don't say that, then there's something wrong with your organization. So in August, you're going to be putting in very little effort, because you're going to be mostly just selling and leading by example with sales, and you're going to get maximum return because you're still getting paid off the office and you're getting paid big off of your sales. So realize that there's an inverse relationship with your effort versus your income. And branch managers, I know we have a bunch of branches, it's a very similar mentality. Brie Galarza, one of the top branches in the nation last year, it was funny because in August, she was out doing demos, she was leading by example, with sales with her team. And her team was selling, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a week for her branch. And she's like, this is like, what do I do with my time? They're all selling, and she had so much, time on her hands because she put in all the effort in the beginning of the summer. Now realize this is the same thing with a rep who's just starting back up, or somebody who might not have momentum. So let's say a new rep, this is the conversation of week one. This is the philosophy of under-promising and over-delivering. It's very, very important as an assistant manager to under-promise and over-deliver. So in week 1, you're putting in your maximum amount of effort. You're phoning for 2-3 hours a day, building up your schedule and your foundation, and you might get 0 return. And then you go through the process of, this is week 1, this is week 2, this is week 3, this is week 4. And this is a great PC or conversation to have with a new rep or somebody who might be struggling, to get them excited about committing to that 4-week process. Because we know if somebody commits to 4 weeks of hard work as a Cutco sales rep, they're going to see the benefits and it's going to click. Too many reps give up on themselves or quit before they see the sunlight. And that's really important to keep people in the game. So that's called the momentum funnel. So my expectation for my assistant managers, again, as we talked about before, is sales leadership. And that's why you're at this boot camp, that's why you're at this event, is to learn how to lead by example with sales. This information that you learn is not just so you can regurgitate and teach in your office. This is for you to be able to implement and lead. The best way to inspire reps, the best way to lead reps is by doing it yourself. And I think the most powerful PCs are field training PCs. You know, sitting down in an office at a desk sitting across from somebody and teaching them about selling Cutco is far less effective than having them in your passenger seat of your car while you chat about sales and build a relationship and they watch your demo. So field training is the best PC, but again, leading by example with sales. In my organization, the requirement for assistant managers is hitting the newsletter every single week. That is the fundamental, most important part of our business. If there was, as far as rep management, rep skills, getting reps to hit the newsletter is the most important key in our business. Anybody who sells less than $1,000 in sales in a week, I am nervous that they're not going to be here the next week. That's my firm belief. If somebody sells even $900 worth of Cutco in 1 week, they are in jeopardy of trying to find a new job and being uninspired by Vector, because unless somebody is at 30% or above, anything less than $1,000 in sales is not an exciting paycheck. You can make more at McDonald's. If you're at 15% and you sell $500, what is that, $75 in income? That's not an exciting paycheck, especially for the amount of phone time and energy that they put into the job. That's not reaping the rewards. Now, sometimes your minds are skewed because you're at either 30% or 35, 40, 45, somebody of you at 50%. And if you sell $800 or $900, that's still a good paycheck. But somebody at 10, 15, 20%, that's not a good paycheck. So for me, having somebody hit the newsletter every week is the most important part of our job. And I'd rather somebody quit because we're too tough on them than them quit because they're not making enough money. So as an assistant manager, the requirement should be to sell $1,000 a week minimum and hit the newsletter every single week. So for my organization, it's newsletter every week and then 10K SC2. And if you're an assistant manager and you sell $1,000 a week and you go after a 10K SC2 push, that's $20,000 in sales for the summer. And if you hit $20,000 in sales for the summer, you're making some really big income. You're going to have incredible influence on your team, and you're going to have unbelievable opportunity for the future. So hitting that newsletter is absolutely crucial. And even Jake Bergman, as a pilot manager, working all day, every day, from early in the morning until late at night, he's still committed to hitting the newsletter every single week because he knows how important that is to lead by example. The other thing that it would be important to lead by example with is personal recruiting. Personal recruiting is our business, and if you haven't gotten the memo yet, you probably haven't been going to your leadership academies. But personal recruiting is so important. When I was an assistant manager in 2004 and 2005, my office was one of the top in the nation because we really fully implemented the PR program. I was a PR caller for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's all I did as a sales manager. I called PRs. That was my job, and I was one of the first PRAs. You guys are familiar with the term PRA. I was one of the first PRAs in the company because we knew how big the PR program was, and I said I would rather spend my time helping our team build and helping recruit than anything else. And I sat in a back office. It was actually a closet. It was the sample kit closet, and I sat in the sample kit closet for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and called PRs. And that's all I did for my first summer as an assistant manager. And it worked because our office was top in the company. I think we were number 2 or 3 in the nation for that summer, and we won some big awards, and it influenced my paycheck. And I realized that the only way as an assistant manager that I could really influence my paycheck is by focusing on 2 things. And I want you to ask yourself this question. This is for assistant managers, branch managers. This is for everybody in the room. But I want you to ask yourself this question. Is what I'm doing, is what I'm currently doing one of two things? Creating recruits or creating CPO? Is what I'm doing right now either creating recruits or creating CPO? And if that answer is no, immediately stop what you're doing and reevaluate how you should be spending your time. What are some things that a lot of assistant managers do that don't create one of these two things? Anybody know? Just shout it out. Being on your phone. If you're in a PC or if you're in the office, your phone should be off. Unless you're taking a PDI and it's dedicated PDI time, you should not be on your phone. If you do anything, even on Facebook, even to the point of liking somebody's status, I would immediately fire you. If you're on Facebook during the day, during hours when we can be recruiting or creating CPO, you would be fired in my office. If you were online and you were looking at sales reports to say, oh, we're beating this office, well, not anymore, because the time that it took you to look at those reports, now they're probably ahead of us. And you're ruining our opportunity, you're jeopardizing our sales, and more importantly, you're jeopardizing the paychecks of everybody else in the office. Because as an assistant manager, your effort influences the other assistant managers' paychecks too. So if you see an assistant manager in your office that is not being 100% productive at all times, I would be highly offended. I would be highly offended at that person, because they are jeopardizing your paycheck. So your job is to influence others in your office and in your division, not in a jerk way, but really teaching this concept of, is what I'm doing creating recruits or CPO? Because to be honest, we've got 100 days. You have 100 days to create the momentum for your office. 100 days to create the momentum for your office that could create years of success. All it takes is one campaign, one incredible campaign to set your office on track to becoming one of the top offices in the nation. Because one great campaign creates Dirty 30 reps. It creates development staff for the next summer. It creates branch managers, district managers, FSM, CSPs. And you have the opportunity not just to influence this summer, but you have an opportunity to influence your office and your division for years to come. So is what I'm doing right now creating recruits or creating CPO? Sharpening pencils, if you ever sharpen a pencil, I will snap it over your head. Pencils are harder than you think. Okay, sharpening pencils, taking out the trash, anything between like 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., these things should never be done. What's something else that should never be done between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m.? Washing dishes. Good. Unless it's in my training room, because I'm OCD about clean dishes. What else? Laundry. How about in the office? You shouldn't be doing laundry in the office. Little clothesline out the window. Okay. What else? What else should we never be doing during daytime hours or working hours? Sleeping. Good. Napping. Going online. Facebook. Swiping right. Like none of those things should be happening during the day. The only thing that should be happening is creating CPO or creating recruits. So let's have a discussion about what creates those things. So is what I'm doing right now creating recruits? What are two things, which means three things. There are three things that you can do that create recruits. There are only three things that you can be doing at any given point that create recruits. What are those three things? Active advertising, right? So active advertising, flyering, or postering. Good. Somebody said interviews, and it's good. That's a good one, but I'm thinking that's part of something in the schedule. So if you don't show up for your interview, then you should be fired. So PR calls, right? So flyering, PRs, and this is either a direct PR call to set somebody for an interview or sitting down with a rep and going through their contacts to create more PR names for your system, right? So PRs. And then what else? That would be recruit. That would be CPO. For recruits, though, what do we do to create recruits? How about go ahead. What's that? Mailing? Oh, got it. Okay, so setting out private mailers for students. Okay, I always think sorry, you're way too, you're above my head. You're too, I'm trying, okay. Go ahead. Good answer though. Perfect. So visiting campuses, and I'll lump that into the flyering, but being active advertising. Excellent. The third one is taking phone calls. When that receptionist line rings, if it rings more than twice before somebody answers the phone, somebody is getting fired in my office. You guys are like, this guy's tough. He runs a tight ship. Absolutely. Absolutely, I run a tight ship because we've got 100 days to create an incredible summer. If the phone rings more than twice, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. You better be diving across the desk. If a receptionist is on the line and the phone's ringing, don't be that person that's like, oh, well, I'm above that. They'll just put that person on hold. They'll grab the second line. No, as an assistant manager, you better be sprinting across the room, diving across the table and picking up that phone because your influence, you showing the receptionist that you are way more passionate about recruiting than they are, that's going to up their game. And if you don't think that it's important to answer the phone, are they going to think it's important to answer the phone? No. If the phone rings at 9 o'clock at night, who should answer it? You. You should be fighting to answer that call. Your district manager, your division manager will absolutely love you when they know that you have the mindset of recruiting is the most important part of the business. So taking phone calls, calling PRs, and then flyering and active advertising. Those are the three things that create recruits. And if you're not doing those three things, reevaluate what you're doing. Now, creating CPO. What creates CPO? PDI. Good. PDI, leading a phone jam, but only if you're leading by what? Example. Okay? Good. So PDI, phone jam, PCs, field training. Perfect. Those four things. If you're doing anything else, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your district manager's time. Those are the only things that you should be doing. So your day needs to be comprised of these things. These are the only 7 activities that you should be allowed to do in your office. And you have permission from me, if your manager says, can you do something, and it's not one of these 7, you have permission from me to say, Drew Frank said I should only be doing these 7 things. Say it with a smile. I'm going to get a lot of calls this summer. All right, so is what I'm doing right now creating recruits or creating CPO? Let's talk about working with reps. So this will be a little bit of review from those of you at the Southwest Region AM training. And you might have a handout that says, why reps sell? Why reps sell? There are 3 reasons why reps sell Cutco. 3 reasons why reps sell Cutco. And there are only 3 reasons. So a lot of people think that reps sell Cutco because they're really talented, or they're excited, or they're enthusiastic about Cutco, or they have product conviction. Of course they have product conviction. Cutco is easy it's the greatest product on earth. So why do reps really sell? What creates the ability for rep to have big time sales? Not just excited about the product and excited about the job, but what makes reps really, really sell? So there are 3 reasons. The first reason why reps sell is because they feel good. The second reason why reps sell is they have people to call. And the third reason why reps sell is because they have a plan. And the plan is basically a schedule with accountability. So this is in every level of our business. You can even look at receptionists. So why does a receptionist do well? Well, a receptionist does well because they feel good, they have people to call in Vector Live, they have lots of PRs to call, and they have a plan. Make 20 calls an hour, 30 calls an hour. Okay, so for a receptionist, it's the same fundamentals. Receptionists need to feel good. You ever have a receptionist that had a bad week of stats, and then you sit down with them and you re-motivate them and inspire them, and then they have a killer week the next week, and they have like 100% show to every interview? Do you think what they were saying on the phone was much different from one week to the next? No. But they felt good about their job. They were inspired and motivated. So for receptionists to do well, make sure they feel good, put little notes of appreciation, and recognize the heck out of them when they get great results, make sure they have a ton of people to call, and give them a plan to call all those people. And that's receptionist training. We don't have incredible receptionist training in my organization because it's follow the script and build rapport. Like that is my receptionist training. I high five, I'm like, all right, this script, just read it, and the objections, read those too, and then build a lot of rapport. And we have some of the best efficiency in the nation every year, and we have some of the lowest touch per launch in the company every year. Our division is number one in the nation, and it's because we just follow the scripts and build rapport. But we make sure that they feel good, they have lots of people to call, and they have a plan. So for receptionists, it's the same thing. So for reps, let's talk about feeling good. So how do you make reps feel good? The first way to make reps feel good is through recognition. So I want to teach some philosophy on recognition. And recognition and appreciation, I've said this many times before, is the most underutilized productivity tool in our business. It's the most underutilized productivity tool in our business. And I taught this many years ago for Team Canada when Joe brought me up to Toronto for an event. I'm waiting for another invitation. But feeling good recognition is so important for reps because reps know how to sell, right? It's follow the manual, cut food, and have fun. You guys are familiar with those three, selling, cut, go. Follow the manual, cut food, and have fun. But how do you get somebody inspired and motivated to do those simple things? Have you ever thought to yourself and try to beat yourself on the head and say, just why don't you just cut a pineapple, or just read, just follow the script. Why are you making things up on your own? Well, because they don't have a reason. The why, right? We always talk about the whys, right? The why creates the reason for the how. The why gives the how, motivation and basically the energy to push it forward. But feeling good, that why is recognition. You have to give reps a why to following the manual. You have to give reps a why to doing the program the right way and not making up their own system. You have to give reps the why to work hard every day. You have to give them the why to not hit the snooze button. You have to give them the why to call in for PDI. Has anybody ever had a problem with a rep not calling in for PDI? Why? Because you didn't recognize them enough. They don't feel appreciated. Have you ever had a rep not show up to a team meeting or not show up to a phone jam or something, or a PC, something they were supposed to? It's because they didn't feel appreciated. Recognition is the why that creates the motivation and the ability for reps to do everything that they should be doing in the business. Have you ever had a picture perfect rep that did everything? It was probably you. Did you ever have a rep that did everything perfect? They showed up to every phone jam, every team meeting. They were 15 minutes early, always dressed to the nines, and they were just perfect in every way. And you're like, why isn't everybody like Johnny CPO? You ever have reps like that? And the reason is because you probably recognize the heck out of them. And whatever you appreciate appreciates. So the more you appreciate the little things, the more reps are going to be excited to do it. So somebody calling in for PDI, one of the things that our system managers are trained to do is they thank reps for calling in for PDI. Now, in your mind, you might be thinking, well, I'm the boss. You need to call in for PDI because I said so. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything. No, but they want to call in for PDI because you recognize and you appreciate them for that. So every time somebody calls into our office for PDI, the first thing is, hey, thanks for checking in. I really appreciate it. You have no idea how much it means that you check in because it makes my job to help coach you so much easier and it makes me more effective. So thank you so much for calling in for PDI. You have no idea how much that means. And in their mind, they're like, that's all I have to do. I get treats every time I just call in for PDI. Seriously, it's like Pavlov and training them by giving little appreciation treats. Somebody comes in for a phone, or somebody comes in early. Anybody have a problem in their office that everybody's always late to everything? Anybody have that? Anybody have an office where the culture is just crappy with people being late? Well, the way to change that is start appreciating and recognizing the people that are on time. And when you start appreciating and recognizing people that are on time, everybody else is going to want to get that recognition too. Right? So it's just the little things. So appreciation for what you want them to continue. But recognition. So this is something that was taught to me by, I think PJ Potter was the one who I heard this from originally, but you recognize people for their performance, not for their results. If you recognize somebody for their results, then it doesn't reinforce the actions that it took to get there. So whenever we recognize people, we recognize for performance, not results. So, and the analogy that I was told was like teaching a kid about baseball. So let's say there's a baseball or softball, you have a little leaguer, and let's say that the little kid, 8 years old, 10 years old, playing baseball and hits a home run. Now, if the coach or the dad or the mom says, hey, congratulations on hitting that home run, you are so good, you're so talented, you're the best little baseball player ever, then all that does is inflates the ego of that kid, and they think that they are inherently good at hitting home runs. They think they're inherently talented at baseball, and then they stop doing the things that got them there, and they end up, going on a downhill spiral, and everybody else catches up. But if they recognize that kid and they say, hey, congratulations on hitting that home run. I'm really proud of you because of the effort you put into practice. You took more practice swings than anybody else on the team. You were at the batting cages early in the morning when nobody else was. They were all sleeping in, and you put in all the effort to give yourself the ability to hit those home runs. So yeah, it was cool that you hit the home run, but the reason you hit the home run was because all the practice you put in. And if you continue putting in that practice, then you're going to continue hitting home runs. And what that does is it reinforces the mentality of practice. So if I say to Molly, and I do this publicly and I also do it privately, recognition is two parts. Personal, private, one-on-one recognition, as well as public recognition. So team meetings or PCs. Find a way, find an excuse to recognize somebody publicly. So, in my office, I'll walk around and I'll embarrass people. I'll say, hey, Amanda, have you met Molly? Yeah. Okay, yes, you have? Okay, Molly is incredible. And you know what I love about Molly? I love that Molly makes more phone calls than anybody else on the team. And the reason why she's one of the top reps, the reason why she's at like almost $100,000 in sales is because she makes more calls than everybody else. She's in the office early in the morning. She's the first one to get on the phone. She's the last one to get off the phone, and she makes more calls. And that's why she's so good at sales. She's not just inherently great at selling knives, because there's no such thing as being inherently good at selling knives, but she's good because she puts in more effort than everybody else. And if you want to hit that level, if you want to be at that level in sales, just make as many phone calls as Molly. So what that does is two things. The first thing it does is it reinforces those skills for Molly, because I just publicly recognized her and I told everybody that she makes more phone calls than everybody else. So what is Molly obligated to do? To continue making more phone calls than everybody else. So I recognized her for something that I want her to continue doing. And that's making more phone calls than everybody else. So it reinstills those actions for Molly, and then it teaches Amanda and anybody else that's in the room that if you want to be as good as Molly, do those things. So I don't just say, hey, you're the woman, you're awesome, right? That's so cheesy. Have you ever, like the Vector high fives, like, you're the greatest? No, you recognize people for real things, authentic appreciation. So how about hitting the newsletter? So I want to talk about the newsletter. And recognition and appreciation in regards to the newsletter. So you recognize people for their performance, not their results. So Garrett can come up to the front of the room. This is a team meeting. So whether it's team meeting or let's just say it's a phone jam, you can be like, everybody stop. Okay, no, but you're getting a demo, so stay on. All right, hey guys, this is Garrett. I want to recognize Garrett for hitting the newsletter this week, and I have to recognize him because he had $1,000 in sales, but that's all you see on paper. But what you don't see is the effort that it took to get there. And Garrett showed a lot of guts this week because he was working his tail off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He worked for 6 days, and he had such a tough week. He was making a ton of phone calls with really terrible luck. He was doing demos, a couple small sales. He sold a couple trimmers, couple peelers. They're great products, but he wasn't selling any sets. And he was just busting his butt, putting in so much effort, but he just didn't get the results. But you know what? What I'm so proud of Garrett is he didn't give up. On Monday, on Miracle Monday, he set up 5 demos, he had 3 sales, and he had an $800 day, which put him over the newsletter. Now, if Garrett gave up on himself and he didn't push hard to the end, he wouldn't have hit the newsletter, and he wouldn't be standing up in front of the team meeting right now. But the reason why he's standing up is because he didn't give up, he pushed through the end, and champions know that you do not give up until the buzzer goes off at the end of the game. And that's why I'm so proud of you for hitting the newsletter. Congratulations. Let's give Garrett a huge round of applause. So what that does, is it makes sure that Garrett will never give up on himself. He will always crush Mondays. So now it's permanent that he's going to be the Miracle Monday guy. And then it tells everybody else in the team who got off to a slow start for the week, do not give up, push hard, and make sure that you go until the end of the week and never give yourself an excuse to peter out and not hit the newsletter. You can do the same thing for field training. So I can say, hey, I want to recognize Ben. Ben hit the newsletter this week. He sold his first signature set, really fired up for his signature set. But the reason he sold his signature set is because he went on a field training with Logan right before. And it was so funny because he went on a field training and he came in for a PC and he said, Drew, I haven't sold a lot of sets. I'm not very good with sets. I really want to learn about sets. Can you teach me about sets? And I said, of course I can teach you about sets. And so he went on a field training with Logan, and Logan showed him his demo. And by the way, Logan didn't even sell a set. Logan sold a couple pieces, but because he learned how to close the right way and drop down the right way, Ben learned some incredible skills, popped his signature set on his next demo, and that's the power of field training. So I want everyone to take some advice from Ben, take a page out of his success book, go on a field training immediately because you're going to learn a ton. And you can go on a field training with somebody higher in sales, lower in sales. You can learn something from anybody, and that's the reason why you sold your first signature set. That's the reason why you hit the newsletter. And then you give him a big round of applause and everybody goes nuts. So what it does is it reinforces for Ben that he's going to continue going on field trainings. It's going to reinforce for Logan that he's going to continue taking people on field trainings, and it's going to tell everybody else in the room, I need to get in this field training program. Does that make sense? So you recognize people for performance, not for their results. So everything is performance-based. Okay, and keeping it simple too. Follow the manual, cut food, have fun. I love recognizing people for little things like, hey, this person hit the newsletter because they cut 7 pineapples this week in their demos. I want to recognize this person because they had more fun on their presentations than anybody else. So the simple things reinforcing those things. So feel good is about recognition and appreciation. Okay, so what are the things? How else can we recognize and appreciate people? Maybe it's for promotions. Maybe it's for, I'm so excited because you're only, this far away from your next promotion. For every rep, you should know their sales more than they know their sales. You should know to the dollar how far away they are from their next promotion, and you should be a walking, talking testimonial for their future. You are basically their infomercial. All right, so think about if you were an infomercial, how would you talk about that person? How would you talk to them? And you're inspiring, you're motivating. You're like the Tony Robbins in their ear all the time. Like, you can do it. You're only $1,200 away from your 3K promotion. I can't wait for you to. Do you realize that that's only 8 demos on average? That's 8 demos away. So as soon as you line up 8 demos, you pretty much already guaranteed yourself your next promotion. So you're always talking about what's next, whether it's an event or whether it's a promotion or whether it's, talking at a team meeting or just excited to see them at the office. So promoting, recognizing, making people feel good. The only way that people will create action is if they feel good first. That's step number 1. So teach through recognition. Talking about demos, field training, Miracle Monday, phoning from the office. Man, there's such a great culture of phoning from the office in the South Denver organization because we recognize the heck out of it. Scott Lilly, one of our assistant managers, last summer he was at the office every single day. He just loved being at the office. And Scott sold $20,000 in basically a month. It was like 5 weeks, sold $20,000 and made $5,000 in income. And I talk about that all the time, and I say the reason why Scott was able to sell so much in such a short period of time was because he was at the office every single day. He never left. It was like he lived there. We had a cot in the other room for him. And but the more I talk about that, the more other reps will say, I want to be like who? Scott. And what are they going to do? They're going to come to the office and phone. Things like 5 before, 5 afters. Anybody who's familiar with the concept of 5 before, 5 after? Okay, so you can't just teach it once. We said everything has to be taught at least how many times? 3 times, but for 5 before, 5 after, it should be like 3 times a day. So 5 before, 5 after, if you make 5 phone calls before every demo and 5 phone calls after every demo, that's 10 phone calls per demo. Now, 10 phone calls on average is going to create 1 appointment. Sometimes none, sometimes 5 or 6, but on average it's going to create 1 appointment. So if every demo you do creates 1 more, then your schedule replicates itself. You never have to sit down for hours and hours and hours and hours and do phone calls because your demo schedule is already set and it just creates itself. So when you first start, or if it's a push week, you need to sit down and make hours and and hours and hours and hours and hours of phone calls. Phone calls are not inherently fun. Sometimes they suck, but you've got to do it. It's part of the business. But once your schedule is set and you really implement 5 before, 5 after, then your business takes on a life of its own. So I recognize, and one of the examples that I give is DeAndrea Beckman. And I say this in training, I say this to reps, I say it at team meetings all the time. And she doesn't even work with us anymore. This was even a couple of years ago, but I still use her example. So I teach 5 before and 5 after. And I said, you know who I really respect is DeAndrea Beckman, because DeAndrea Beckman, she said, Drew, I'm an overachiever. I overachieve in everything in my life. And I assume that you guys are vector people, so I assume that you overachieve in everything that you do in your life as well, whether it's sports or school or relationships or whatever. You guys are probably the best at what you do. So in Vector, DeAndrea said, I'm an overachiever. I need to do more than the average. So she said, I'm going to make 7 calls before and 7 phone calls after. And I said, okay, great. Let's see how that works out. I said, by the way, what's your goal for the week? She said, I don't know. I don't really have a goal. I'm just here because of the experience. I want to build my resume, but we'll see how it goes. So DeAndrea set up 20 appointments in her first weekend. She did 7 calls before and 7 calls after every demo. And then by the end of the weekend, I said to DeAndrea, hey, congratulations. You just sold $4,000 this weekend. What's your goal for how many demos you want for this week? And she said, I don't know, but I have 20 demos in my schedule. Because she was doing 7 before, 7 after, every demo she had replicated itself, and she had 20 demos between Tuesday and Friday. And then by Friday, I said, hey, DeAndrea, great job. Congratulations. You're at 8K in your fast start. What's your goal for the weekend? And she said, I don't know, but I have 20 demos lined up for the weekend. And then she ended up selling over $10,000 in her fast start. She won the limo trip, made $2,000 in income, and she's at dirty 30. So now she has the ability to work a part-time job and make full-time income, or work a full-time schedule and make ridiculous baller income. But then I said to DeAndrea at the end of her fast start, I said, okay, now that your fast start's over, let's talk about what your goals are for this upcoming week. And she said, I don't know, but I have 20 demos lined up. So she did that through the entire summer. She ended up selling $30,000 for the summer, making nearly $10,000 in income in about 2.5 months. And she was only able to do that because she was making 7 calls before and after each demo. Now, you don't have to make 7 calls before and after every demo, but you have to make at least how many? Do you think everybody in the group is sold on making calls before and after every demo now? Absolutely. But you have to repeat that every day. It's all about repetition. So on PDI, what do you have to do? Remind them, did you make your what? 5 before, 5 after. So what Jake does is when a rep calls from a demo, he said, did you make your 5 phone calls yet? And if they say no, he said, okay, make your 5 phone calls real quick and then call me right back and tell me about your demo. But it reinforces that skill set. So every demo absolutely must have 5 calls before and after every demo. That should be a standard rule in your organization. And if it does, I promise you, sales will go through the roof and you'll create a lot of newsletter reps. So that's about teaching through recognition. Also, attitude is everything. Attitude is everything. Your biggest sales come after your what? After no sales. Your biggest sales come after no sales. Anybody ever experienced that? You have a no sale and you crush on the next one? But what if you had a crappy attitude? Do you think you would have had that big sale? No, as soon as a demo is over, it's done. Whether it's a no sale or whether it's an ultimate set, it's in the past. As soon as you leave that customer's house, it's already done. So we don't want reps to be bummed and pissed if they have a no sale, but at the same time, we don't want them to be overconfident and think that they are God's gift to the Cutco world if they have a big sale. So when somebody sells a homemaker, I say, hey, congratulations, when's your next demo? Because I don't want them to say, oh, I'm the greatest, let me take it easy for the rest of the day because I've achieved something. No, you haven't. You sold a set of knives. I mean, you're not that good. So it's all about, teaching. Attitude is everything. So, when somebody has a no sale, we say, congratulations. We get just as fired up for no sales as we do for sales. You had a no sale? Awesome. Hey, you got it out of the way. You know what that means? Based on the averages, you're going to have a huge sale on the next demo. You have to. Like, very rarely do you have 2 no sales in a row. That would be weird, wouldn't it? Like, if more than 50% of people buy, wouldn't it be strange to have 2 no sales in a row? So you got that one out of the way. Your next demo is definitely going to be a sale. What do you think you're going to sell? And you immediately go on to that next demo. So it's all about positive attitude and your influence on them. Okay, so feeling good is about recognition and appreciation. It's also about vision, okay? So it's recognition and appreciation, and it's about vision. Vision is what I call WIIFM conversations. What's in it for me? WIIFM. What's in it for me conversations. And when you're as a coach, it's WIIFM. FT. What's in it for them? So what's in it for them conversations, that's how you create vision. It's about inspiring them for their future. And when you making people feel good, it's about recognizing them for what they've done, but also creating vision for what they're going to do. So it's recognition for what they've done and creating vision for what they're going to do. So let's say, I have Mitch, and let's say I'm sitting in a PC with Mitch, and Mitch is going after a $3,000 a week, or let's say a $1,000 a week. He's just going after the newsletter, and I want to promote hitting the newsletter and why it's so important. I say, hey, Mitch, I want you to know how crucial this week is for your success. Now, you've missed the newsletter 2 weeks in a row. You did 400 2 weeks ago. You did 350 this past week. So you've done 750 in the past 2 weeks. Now I realize, I get that that's exciting. You've made some sales, but that hasn't created a big, huge paycheck. So let's look at your paycheck. You've made X amount of dollars in the past 2 weeks. I'm a little bit nervous that this job is not going to last long for you because you're not selling enough to make the money where this job is absolutely incredible. This job is fun. It's a resume builder. You're learning good stuff, but this isn't like the greatest job ever just because you're not making enough yet. So this week is so crucial for you to hit the newsletter. And the reason why it's so important is because my fear is that if you don't hit the newsletter this week, you're probably not going to be here for that much longer. You're probably going to end up finding a different job because another job might be easier. You might even make more money. I know you have potential to do a ton in this job. I know you have potential to be one of the top reps in an organization, but I'm just really nervous that that if we don't really crush it this week, then it's going to be a tough future for you. So hitting the newsletter this week, getting over $1,000 in sales. Think about how massive that's going to be, because right now you're at $5,200 in sales. So if you hit the newsletter this week, I should say, when you hit the newsletter this week, what is it going to create for you? Well, first, you're at 25%, so you're going to make over $250 this week. Think about how many hours at a crappy job it would take to make $250. You would have to work 25 to 30 hours at a retail place or delivering pizzas to make the amount of money that you're going to make in just doing your 7 appointments. Because in order to hit the newsletter, it's 7 appointments a week. Now, you could probably do it in less, but if you do your 7 appointments, you're going to hit the newsletter. You're also going to hit your $6,000 sales promotion. Sorry, it was over $200. But you're going to hit your $6,000 sales promotion. You'll be at 25%. That means that for every homemaker you sell from that point forward, 250, 250, 250. Imagine one sale, making more money in one sale than all your friends make in an entire week of working their crappy jobs where they're undervalued because they're paid for their time and not their value. So being at 25%, think about how big that's going to be. Think about the recognition that you're going to get at the team meeting, where you get to stand up and you get that red pin at the team meeting, and you're sitting in front of the room and everybody's cheering for you, everybody's clapping for you. Think about becoming a leader in the organization, hitting $6,000 in sales, hitting the newsletter this week. It gets you that much closer to being a key staff member, gets you that much closer to being targeted as a future assistant manager. I think we can build the organization around you. I think that you can be one of the people that's here for the next few years. I think you could even be on staff next summer. You have the potential. You have the goods. I know you can bring it. But this week is so important for you because if you do those things, you can set yourself up for a lifetime of success, and realize that if you put in the energy this week, if you really put in the effort this week, you do everything that I tell you, everything I teach you, come to every phone jam, you come to team meeting, you phone your tail off, you make 5 calls before and after every demo, you call in for PDI, you don't miss RPC, and you hit the newsletter this week, what if that set you up on a path towards financial success and security for the rest of your life? I can't guarantee that for you, but I can guarantee you the opportunity, because if you hit the newsletter this week, even something as simple as just hitting $1,000 in sales this week, what if that sets you on a path to hitting 30% in the next month and hitting Dirty 30? And what if that sets you on a path to hitting bonus by the end of the summertime? Well, then you come back at bonus land over winter break, you make a couple $1,000s over winter break, you come back next summer, you're an assistant manager on staff, you're building skills for life, you make a ton of money because you're leading by example, you go to the National Sales Bootcamp next April, you learn a ton of stuff from the best CSPs in the company, then you become an assistant manager, you're selling by example, you sell $20,000 worth of Cutco, plus you make money off the office, you're the richest kid in your college, and with the skills and experience you learn as an assistant manager over your years with Vector, you're going to be so much further ahead of everybody else in your field. You're going to have professional skills, you're going to have personal skills, you're going to land whatever dream job you want in the future, and because of those skills, because you're so much further ahead of your peers, you're going to be able to land whatever job you want. And if you land whatever job you want after college, do you think you're going to be worrying about money anymore? No, so you're going to be the richest kid at your college. You're also going to be the richest person to get a job after college, and you're never going to have to worry about money ever again for the rest of your life. So I want you to realize that your commitment this week, your commitment right now to hitting the newsletter could set you on a path towards financial success and security for the rest of your life. So, but this is, and you're like, how do I have that conversation? Like, how do I do that? Just speak from the heart. There's no script for it. If you really care about that person and you really see that for that person, then you'll be able to express it. And it doesn't have to be as smooth. This is a decade of having those conversations. But the more you practice it, the more you're authentic and genuine and inspirational with your reps, the more they see it. And now Mitch is like, that's all? I just hit the newsletter this week and then life is easy? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. But you do that with every rep and every conversation. Your job as an assistant manager is to walk around, shake hands, kiss babies, and inspire people. Phone jams, just inspire the heck out of people, but your recognition and you're giving vision for the future. What's in it for them? What's in it for them? And it's funny, I have some of my assistant managers, they try to steal my thunder sometimes, and they'll come up for a talk at a team meeting, and they'll start or I'll introduce them to training, and they'll be like, hi, my name is so-and-so, I started, last summer, and what if the energy that you put into training could set you up for a lifetime? Okay, and but I want my assistant managers to be thinking that and feeling that, because the more you inspire, the more you talk about people's future, that gives them the why. So feeling good is the why. Do we got that? Okay. By the way, if somebody hits the newsletter, would $1,000 in sales, would any of you jump out of your seats and be super just ecstatic, just $1,000 in sales? No, for you guys, $1,000 in sales for the week is not that crazy, but you think about a rep who starts in May, or starts in the beginning of June, if all they did was just hit the newsletter every single week, they hit the newsletter every single week for the summer, that's going to be at least $10,000 in sales. And if somebody makes $10,000 or sells $10,000 with a Cutco, they've made $2,000 in income. They're also at Dirty 30, so their income potential for the future is super high, and they're going to be excited to come back. My firm belief is that if somebody sells less than $10,000 worth of Cutco over the summer, it's very hard to get them to come back the next summer. So that's got to be the minimum. Your job as an assistant manager is to get everybody in the organization over 10K in sales by the end of the summer. That is our job. I would say our job as a company is to get everybody to hit $10,000 in sales, because if somebody doesn't hit $10,000 in sales, they haven't really experienced the vector opportunity. Would you agree with that? Before 10,000, you get to dabble in it, but you haven't really experienced the vector opportunity as far as the income rewards yet. So your job is to get everybody to hit $10,000 in sales by the end of the summer. For your top reps is to get them to hit $10,000 in sales as quickly as possible, so that way they can take advantage of 30%. So the only way to do that is making sure that everybody's hitting the newsletter every single week. Here's another fun fact, that for the newsletter, for every person on the newsletter in your office for the week, multiply it by 2.5, and that's exactly what your sales report will be for the week. Some of you have heard me talk about this before, but if you want to have, let's say you have 8 reps on the newsletter for the week, that'll be a $20,000 sales week. 8 reps in the newsletter is $20,000 in sales. If you have 12 reps on the newsletter, it's a $30,000 sales week. If you want to have a $100,000 sales week, a 100K sales week, 40 reps to hit the newsletter that week. It's a science. There's nothing to get around that. You have to have the amount of reps to hit the newsletter every week in order to hit that goal. So when at my office, we go for $100,000 in sales every week over the summer. So our minimum is 40 reps in the newsletter. Now, typically we go for 50 or 60. We want to shoot for 50 or 60 reps hitting the newsletter every single week, and that's how we're able to consistently do 125, 130, 150 every week in June. And this summer, our goal is to have over 60 on the newsletter. So our new business goal is going to be $150,000 in new business every week in June. The only way to get there is by getting 60 reps in the newsletter. The only way to get 60 reps in the newsletter is by doing a ton of recognition and a ton of what's in it for them conversations. Does that make sense? So it's all about hitting the newsletter. All right, so vision. So feeling good is recognition and vision. Step 2 on working with reps and creating great reps is people to call. People to call. So let's talk about having people to call. So I want you to jot down mission 100. Mission 100. Mission 100 is the most important thing for every rep to give them the opportunity to sell. Now, because if they're inspired and they have vision, that's great. But vision and inspiration without people to call isn't really going to do much, right? So Mission 100 is the rule is in the office that every rep has to have at least 100 people to call at any given point. At least 100 people to call. If they have less than 100 people to call, I am very nervous that they're not going to be here next week. So when I say to a rep, how many people do you have on your names list? And they say 60, and they say like, I've got 60, that's a lot. I freak out. Okay, the red flags start going up. That's freak out mode. If somebody has fewer than 100 people on their list, and by the way, some of you are like, I have fewer than 100 on my list right now. If somebody has fewer than 100 on their list, I am just absolutely in freak out mode, and I'm nervous that they're not going to be here next week. If they have over 100 on their list, I'm feeling good. If they have 200 plus, I'm feeling great. But Mission 100 is the minimum. So in our organization, the rule is we never teach anything new unless somebody has 100 names on their list. By the way, new meaning revisiting things from the manual. Like if somebody's having trouble with closing, we would just role play the close and role play objections. But I'm not going to do that unless they have 100 people on their list, because if they have fewer than 100 people on their list, I could spend all the time getting them good at closing, but they don't have enough people to close on. Okay? If they're having trouble with recommendations, I'm not going to spend the time teaching them high-level recommendation skills, because if they don't have enough people to call, then they're not going to have the demos to even ask for recommendations. So it's all about having 100 on their list. And we will do the chicken list PC over and over and over again until they have more than 100 on their list. So we are going to, I'm going to walk you through the chicken list exercise. And for those of you who are at the Southwest Region Bootcamp a few weeks ago, this will be a little bit of review, but let's see how much you can remember. So you have a document in your packet that says chicken list PC. And I want to use, I'm going to pick somebody as my example. What's your name? Mike? Good to meet you. All right, so Mike is going to be my example for the chicken list PC. The reason why reps quit, the number one reason why reps quit is what? They don't have people to call? False. The number one reason why reps quit is because they don't feel comfortable calling the people they have. Everybody has names to call. It is absolutely impossible for somebody to not have people to call. When somebody says, I don't know anyone, bogus. That's a lie. It's impossible. The average person knows thousands of people by name. Thousands of people by name. And with their virtual demo program, even if they're out of town, it's still a bogus response. They say, oh, I'm not from the area, I don't know anyone. Good, sit on your computer and do virtual demos, because we've had reps sell $10,000 with virtual demos like that. So the reason why reps quit is because they don't feel comfortable calling those people. It's not about how many names they have access to, it's their comfort in actually calling those people. So you got to get people to feel good, because if you recognize them and appreciate them and you paint the picture for them and you inspire them, then they're going to have the why to actually do it, because they know that they have access through their church or synagogue directory or Facebook or their neighborhood or their parents' friends or their friends' parents. They have so many people they could, but they're not willing to take that step until they're inspired. So they have to feel good. That's step number one. You can't just tell somebody with a bad attitude. You can't say, let's say Mike is like, I don't want to work here anymore. This job sucks. I'm going to try to find, a landscaping job. So if he's in that mindset, I can't just dig in and say, all right, let's come up with people to call, because he'll be like, yeah, okay, but I just don't want to, because I just don't like it here. So step one is making sure people feel good. Step two, though, is the names list. So Mission 100, let's talk about the chicken list PC. So reps don't feel comfortable calling certain people, and that's why they quit, not because they don't have access to names. So the chicken list PC is showing them that they have plenty of people to call, and it's giving them the action steps and holding their hand through that process. Also, a lot of reps are nervous. Would you agree that most reps are nervous about calling people, especially if they haven't talked to them in a long time? Okay, so let's talk about this, the chicken list. By the way, this is also when a rep is in their fast start or right after their fast start, they get excited about calling recommendations right away. It is my firm belief that we should never call a referral until $10,000 in sales. Until $10,000 in sales. We push that really hard in our office. Do not call referrals until you're at $10,000 in sales, because $10,000 in sales is 40 demos. We know that, right? 40 demos equals 10K. We learned that from Mike Muriel. So 40 demos equals 10K. That's just standard. So if somebody does 40 presentations, that, whether it's a push week or an overextended period of time, that is usually $10,000 in sales. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but that's the golden ticket. So if somebody doesn't have 40 contacts, if somebody doesn't have 40 family members, friends, parents, people that they can show that they know, they're lying to you. Okay, that's just a fact. They're lying to you. It's impossible that somebody doesn't have 40 people they can do a presentation for. So I try to make sure that reps don't call referrals until they're at $10,000 in sales. The way that I have that what's in it for them conversation, the want to versus need to. Because if I say to Mike, hey Mike, you can't call referrals. You're not allowed to until you're at $10,000 in sales because I said so and I've got a name tag. Right? I can't do that because Mike will say, well, screw you. I'm at 1099. You can't tell me what to do. Right? But if I put it in terms of what's in it for him, so I say, hey, Mike, if you were going swimming and you dive into a pool that has 6 inches of water in it, if you dive in head first off the high dive, a pool of 6 inches of water, what happens? You die. You die. You're dead. What if you dive in a pool of 6 feet of water? You live, and you have a great day at the pool. So in our business, calling referrals too soon, calling referrals before you have 100 contacts on your list, before you have 100 people from your original list to call and set demos with, that's like diving into 6 inches of water. If you have 100 plus on your list, that's like having 6 feet of water. Because what will happen is right now you only have 20 or 30 referrals. If you only have 20 or 30 referrals, you're going to burn through all of them. And by the time you figure out how to make phone calls, because it's a process, there's a learning curve, by the time you figure out how to make phone calls, you're going to have burned through every one of those. And by the time you get good, you have nobody to call. But if you build up your list and you have over 100 on your list, you're still going to burn through the same 20 or 30 because you're going to suck at first because, phone calls, there's a learning curve and it's hysterical to watch you guys phone for the first time. But there's a learning curve. You're going to burn through those 20 or 30, but when you burn through those 20 or 30, you still have 70 or 80 people to call, and you have plenty on your list. So it's so important to make sure that we have over 100 on your list, so let's work on that. So you're putting it in terms of what's in it for them. You're not saying you have to do something. You're saying here's why you want to do something. So it's always what's in it for them. It's inspiring, it's motivating, and you're putting it in terms of want to instead of need to conversations. If you say, you have to be at the team meeting. No, I don't. Here's why you want to go to the team meeting. You want to go to the team meeting because, Keith Carnes is giving a talk on dropping down, and he is the best in our office at dropping down. He sells a set on almost every presentation. It's not always a homemaker. In fact, it's usually galley sets, studio sets, essential sets, and that's why he has such a high average order. That's why he hits the newsletter every single week, and that's why he's one of the top reps in our organization, is because he drops down like a master. So by going to the team meeting, you're going to learn some skills from one of the best reps in our organization, and I promise you that your average order will shoot up through the roof. Your average order will probably go up by $100 just by going to the team meeting tonight. And think about, I know you don't get paid to go to the team meeting directly, but indirectly, you're going to make so much more money this summer because let's say your average order increased by $50. Well, and if you're making 5 sales a week, that's $250 extra in sales per week. Over the course of 10 weeks, 12 weeks, that's about $3,000 in sales. Now, by that point at the end of the summer, you're going to be at 30%. So 30% of 300 or 3,000 is about $900 in income. So by going to the team meeting tonight, you're basically paying yourself $900. So it's all about what's in it for them. It's want to versus need to. You never say you have to do something. It's here's why you want to do something. So going to a conference, going to a team meeting, coming in for a phone jam, everything is in terms of why it's beneficial for them. All right, so Mike, let's get back to the chicken list. Mike, you don't have a whole lot of people to call? Just play along with me. Okay, Mike's a lame rep, doesn't have people to call. By the way, I know he's not a lame rep because he's sitting in the front row, and no lame reps in the front row. Okay. So Mike is struggling because he doesn't feel like he has people to call. And he says, I don't know anyone. I don't think I can do this job. This job's not for who? Okay. It's because he doesn't feel like he has people to call. So Mike, we're going to work on your list, and we're going to come up with a massive list of people that you could call. I'm not going to force you to call everyone. I promise you I'm not going to force you to call everyone. But I want to show you that you have way more people than you think you have. And at the end of this exercise, it's your choice. If you feel like this job's not for you and you want to give up and you want to try something else, that's fine. It'll just set a precedent for everything you do for the rest of your life. It's okay, though. I get it. I'm just kidding, don't say that. But at the end of this, if you don't feel like it's for you, not a big deal, I won't be offended. I just want to give you the opportunity. I want to show you that if you want to be one of the top reps in the office, you have the potential. Because I know that you're good enough. I know that you're talented enough. I know that you're driven enough. I know that you could do it. I could see you being on staff one day. I could see you becoming the next FSM and CSP in our office. You have so much potential, and I would lose sleep at night if I knew that I didn't give you my all, and I would lose sleep at night if I didn't think that we at least gave it our 100% effort. And you know what? And if we look back and it doesn't work, well, at least we know we tried and we don't have any regrets. But I don't want to have any regrets. I don't want to look back and say, man, we lost Mike because he could have been something great in this job. I don't want that to happen. I'm sure you don't want to look back with regret either. So if you give me the opportunity, I want to help you build up your list, and we'll have the opportunity to at least be a top rep in our office. Sound good? Okay, so again, I'm not going to force you to call everyone. I'm not going to pick up the phone for you and dial, but I'm just going to give you a big list, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start with some of the easy ones. So when I ask you some of these questions, I want you to be totally open, and I want you to pretend that you're not nervous at all to call anyone, that there's no fear. And by the way, some of these people you're going to call right away. Some of them you won't call for a month, 2 months, 3 months. Some of you will never call because they're way too scary, and that's fine, but I want them to be on your list anyway, so don't judge anyone as we go through this exercise. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about some of your activities that you're involved with and some of the people that you already have. So tell me about your original list. So in trading, how many people did you write on your original list? 60 or 70. So how many demos have you done so far? Close to 40. Okay, so this is somebody who's clearly out of there, either passed their fast start or has done a couple demos. So 40. So out of those 30 people remaining, how many do you feel comfortable calling? Out of those 30? All of them? Okay. So write down original list, and you've got 30 people from your original list. I don't want you to call 30, so I want you to write down original list. I want you to write down 30. 30 is who you could call, but my requirement is going to be to have 15. So out of the 30 people remaining, I want you to make a really, really good effort to target 15 that you feel super comfortable calling. Is that fair? Okay, so I'm not going to make you call all of them, but 15. All right, so tell me about tell me about school. What high school did you go to? Okay, and how many graduating seniors were there? How many did you graduate with? 59. How many parents of those 59 have you shown so far? 2. Okay, so out of the 57 remaining, how many do you feel comfortable reaching out to? Out of the 57 remaining? 10? Okay, put it down. Maybe 10 or definitely 10? Okay, write down 5. Okay, so you have 10 that you feel comfortable, but your assignment's going to be 5. Okay, tell me about your neighborhood. What type? Do you live in a neighborhood or a street? What do you live in?
It's like a subdivision.
Okay, subdivision. So a lot of people, right? How many total houses in your subdivision? Couple hundred. How many have you shown so far? None. So out of the couple hundred remaining, how many do you feel comfortable reaching out to? Either introducing yourself and going up and saying hi, or putting a sticky note on their door, or going through white pages and finding their number, giving them a shout. About 10? Okay, write it down. Definitely 10 or maybe 10? Definitely 10. Do you have 10 people that you would recognize by face, like that when you drive, they're like, slow down, and you're like flipping them the bird? You have at least 10 people in your neighborhood like that? Okay, good. So write down 10 for your neighborhood. Okay, so now we're up to 35? Or 30? Sorry, 30. Up to 30? Okay, good. That's your neighborhood. Did you play sports, Mike?
I did.
Okay, what sport did you play?
It was a tennis player.
Tennis? Me too, good. How many years did you play tennis?
4 years.
Okay, if you were to collect all the rosters from your school team and any club teams that you played on, if you were to collect all your rosters, how many friends from tennis have you played with over the course of the years?
Probably close to 40.
Close to 40. And out of those 40, how many have you shown so far? None. Okay, so out of the 40 remaining, how many do you feel comfortable reaching out to? 15 to 20? Okay, put down 15. So 15 friends from tennis. Okay, do you go to church or synagogue? Okay. How many in your organization? 300. 300? How many have you shown so far?
Probably 10 to 15.
10 to 15. So out of the 285 remaining, how many do you feel comfortable reaching out to?
20.
20? Okay, these people you probably grew up with and you know really well, right? But 20, write down 15. Okay. What about out-of-town family and friends? What about relatives that you haven't reached out to so far, people that live out of town? How many? How many have you done so far?
Done
None? How many do you think you could reach out to?
Probably about 8.
8? Okay, put down 8. Actually, put down 5. So you always lower that number. That way you take some of the freak out, feelings away. All right, so just from those 6 categories, we have the ones he's committed to is 20, 30, 45, 60, 65. So he's got 65 contacts that he's committed to getting the numbers for. So he had 40 on his list, right? And now he's got 65, so that gets him to what? Mission 100. So you do not stop until they get up to those names. Now what you have to do is create an action plan of how are you going to get those numbers. So what do we have directories for? Do we have a neighborhood directory? We do have the tennis rosters. And you've got to give an assignment and a deadline of when they have to get those by. It's always, always, always beneficial to get the ball rolling in the office. Don't just send them home and say, all right, your assignment is to get all these numbers tonight and then call me and let me know how it goes. No, how many of these numbers can we get right now? Well, I don't have any. I've got to go home and get them. No, why don't you call mom and see if she can get you all these numbers over the phone? Because mom probably has half of those, the ones from the church or synagogue, the ones from the neighborhood, the family members. So he could probably get half of those numbers in the next 45 minutes or hour while he's at the office. Mom and dad are a great resource. So the chicken list is so powerful because you're giving them confidence that they have people to call. But again, you've got to create action right away by getting those numbers right away. Another valuable step would be to, here's the biggest one. How many Facebook friends do you have? 1,300. Out of the 1,300 Facebook friends, how many have you called so far? 20? Okay. Out of the 1,280 remaining, how many do you feel comfortable reaching out to? 70. Okay, put 50. So he's got now 115 targets, new contacts that he has to get the numbers for. So your job as an assistant manager is to help him through the process to get those phone numbers. Now, if he was nervous and his initial excuse was, I don't know anyone, do you think he's going to be comfortable making those phone calls on his own? So where should this happen? At the office. And now, do you have to walk them through and sit down with them the entire time they're doing it? No, but you could be doing PDI. You could be doing a PC with somebody else and having them sit right there next to you, cranking out these numbers and making sure it happens. So I would have them spend at least an hour at the office getting those phone numbers, and you do not let somebody leave until they've booked 3 demos. That's the rule. When you come to the office, you've got to book 3 demos. Because if you don't book 3 demos when you come to the office, then you're not getting enough value out of being at the office. The reason why somebody's going to continue coming to the office, whether it's a phone jam, team meetings, PC, the reason why somebody will continue coming to the office is because they got value from coming into the office. So if they come to the office and you force them to get 3 demos lined up. That's called forced accountability. It's not like get on the phone or I'm going to take a petite carver to your pinky. But if you force them to get 3 demos lined up and you have an inspired what's in it for them conversation, and you say to them, hey, I can't let you leave until you book 3 demos, because if you leave and you have 3 demos booked up, you're going to realize that coming to the office helps your business, and you're going to want to, and you can be totally upfront and honest. Like, you are just very upfront. It's like, hey, you're not leaving until you get 3 demos, because if you book 3 demos, you're going to come back tomorrow because you're going to want to book 3 more. If you leave and you don't have any demos booked up, you're going to think that being at the office is a waste of time, and you're not going to want to be here anymore. So I'm going to be a tough coach. I'm going to make you get demos lined up. We did this last week at a team meeting. One of our guys said, I've got to go because I need to get home and blah, 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 and some bogus excuse. And I said, okay, I'll let you leave, but you have to book at least 1 demo first, right? You could do a drop-down process from 3 to 2 to 1. But I said, I'm not letting you leave unless you get 1 demo booked up. He booked a demo, got on the board for the week, sold something, and he's still part of the team. And if he didn't book that demo, if he didn't make that sale, there's a chance that he wouldn't be here right now. So it's really, really important to make sure that you create action in the office. So that's the chicken list PC. So making sure that they get the numbers right away. making sure that they make those phone calls at the office. Also, teaching the conversation of tying their parents into the job. This is something that most reps, they never have this conversation with their parents, and it's unbelievable to me that reps will make excuses they don't have people to call, and as soon as we coach them on how to sit down with their parents and tie them into their goals and inspire them about the job, their parents are like, all right, here's like 100 names. But reps, they make excuses for their parents. Anybody in here do that? Where like you just assumed that your parents weren't going to be the most supportive, so you like never really asked them for referrals, and then like later on you sat down with them during a push week and they're like, here's my whole address book, and you're like, where was this 4 months ago? And they're like, you never asked. Anybody? So that's common. And if it happens for some people in this room, think about how common that is for somebody that's not in the top 10% or the top 5% in the nation, which is this group right here. So teaching reps how to tie their parents into the job. And oftentimes, I will have a rep call their parents on the spot at the PC and just say, have you even asked them for referrals? Yeah, totally. I asked them for referrals. No, you didn't. Have you really asked them for referrals? Have you really tied them into your goals? I mean, Jake sits down with his mom every campaign and gets new names and numbers from his mom. Anybody ever do that with your parents? Like you've sat down multiple times and gotten more and more leads? Because when parents see that their kids are inspired about something, they're going to go out of their way to help them. Now, there might be some weird situations where you have unsupportive parents. I get that. But 95% of the time, if somebody just asks their parents for more names and numbers, they're going to get them. It's been 13 years. My mom still tells me about people that need Cutco. She's like, can you do a demo for them? No, I can't do a demo for them, but I can hook them up with some Cutco. So if you teach reps how to ask their parents and inspire their parents and tie their parents into their goals, they're going to have a lot more names that way too. Reps just assume that they're not going to have the support from mom and dad. They just assume that, which is most often not the case, and they get surprised when their parents are totally behind them. So that's people to call. So Mission 100 and the chicken list exercise. So the third key is the plan. So the plan is so important to keep simple. Keep it simple, but the plan is really just a schedule with accountability. So it's their schedule and accountability. Now, I think you have a handout that says 3 ways to break down your goals. And there are 3 ways that you can break down somebody's goals in Cutco. And these are the only 3 ways. And I keep it really, really simple. So I want to teach, if you're doing a PC with a rep and you're breaking down their sales goals, there are 3 ways. And it's important to give reps ownership of their goals. So 3 ways to break down a goal. The first way to break down a goal is through an income goal. So first way is through an income goal. Second way to break down somebody's goal is through a CPO goal. So this would be kind of a competitive goal. And the third way to break down somebody's goal is based on their schedule. Now, it's important to honor somebody's preference, because when you honor somebody's preference of how they want to break down their goal, then they're going to take ownership of it. If I just sat down with Amanda and I said, okay, let's break down your goal. We're going to shoot for $2,000 in sales this week because that'll keep you on pace for your sales. Okay, and $2,000 in sales, 7 demos for every 1,000. That's 14 demos. Okay, where are we going to put those 14 demos? That would be simple, but that's my goal for her. That's not her goal for herself. So it's very important to honor somebody's preference on how they want to break down their goal. So there are 3 different types of reps. There are reps who are really money motivated and they want to make a lot of money. There are reps who are motivated by competition, right? And they want to hit a certain level. It's not about the money, it's more about the competition. And then there are reps who are more focused on their schedule, their lifestyle, or they need to fit in with a certain time period, time frame. So schedule is somebody with more of a time conflict or somebody who doesn't really want to overwork. So what type of reps would you break down these goals for? Well, income, again, somebody who's super motivated by money, somebody who's super motivated by competition and wants to be the best, wants a ton of recognition. So these are people that really need recognition. And the schedule, this would be for somebody with another job or somebody with summer classes. So it's breaking down their goal based on schedule is somebody who has another job or has summer classes, or they're just doing this for the experience and they just want a resume builder. This would be a good person to break down that goal for as well. So when I break down somebody's goal, I say to them, hey, you have three options. We can break down your goal based on an income that you need to make. So if you have a specific amount of money you have to make to pay your bills or to save up for school, or we could break down your goals based on a CPO goal, or we could break your goals down based on a schedule goal. So let's talk about a summer goal. So let's say somebody says, well, I want to break my goals down based on income because I would really want to make $5,000 this summer. Would that be a pretty good goal for a new rep? So let's take a $5,000 sales goal. Now, as an assistant manager, it's important for you to realize and understand what level somebody has to sell in order to make the money that they need. So when somebody sells $1,000, how much have they made? $100, right? Got it? Good, that's the easy one. When somebody sold $3,000, they've hit their second promotion, how much have they made cumulative income so far? $3,000 in sales is $400 in income. This is something you got to know. Cumulative income, it's just math. It's math, but I would make sure have a cheat sheet though, because this is simple. When you break down goals, you got to keep it simple. I never break down somebody's goals based on their average order or their closing percentage, because there's not enough of a point of reference. There's not enough. There's not enough information to be able to have an accurate number. If somebody's sold in their fast start and they have a super high average order, let's say they have a $400 or $500 average order in their fast start, good. It's because they were showing all family and friends. They should have a higher average order. It doesn't mean that they can expect a $400 or $500 average order for their entire career. And if they had a crappy average order, if it was only $150, it's because they just weren't as confident enough. But as their confidence grows, that average order will increase. So I never use their real averages, and I always use, no matter what, I use 250 average order and 60% closing. I never use any other numbers than that. Now let's say I have a rep. For example, Andrew over there. Andrew's average order as a rep was like $600, and his closing percentage was 100% for his first 2 months. It was 73, 53. What was your record? 72 demos before his first no sale. But when I help Andrew break down his goals, I'm not going to tell him, oh, you're going to have 100% closing. We use 60%. You always err on the side of caution, because erring on the side of caution and using lower projected numbers forces him to do more demos than he thinks he needs to do, which will force him to sell more, which forces him to make more, which forces him to like you more. Okay, so the more demos they do, the more they make. When you underpromise and over-deliver, then they can blame you for making too much money. Does that make sense? So always using those conservative numbers, never using the real numbers. Plus, it takes too much time to figure out the math. What's your average order? That's just wasted time. I'd rather spend more time getting names and numbers in the chicken list than coming up with their numbers, because a goal is so, like, when people create goals aren't meant to hit. Goals are meant to give you reason to wake up every morning and work hard. That's what a goal is, right? It's just meant to give you direction, right? And if they're not going to hit the exact goal. They're not going to do the exact number of phone calls, the exact number of demos. They're not going to hit the exact number of sales. It's just a reason to push forward and work hard. The goal is really the reason. It's the why. The how is making the phone calls and setting up the appointments. All right, so I always use 250 and 60%. I never use higher averages than that, because you are doing them a disservice if you use higher numbers than that, because it's going to force them to do fewer demos. They're never going to reach their true potential. So always keep it simple with those numbers. Got it? All right, so the way those numbers break down is that means that every $1,000 in sales is 7 demos, okay? Because $1,000 divided by 250 average order is 4 sales. 4 sales divided by 60% is 6 or 7 demos. So 6 or 7, we're always going to take the higher side because we err on the side of what? Caution. So 7 demos for every 1,000, no matter who it is. If I'm sitting down with Curtis JQs, I'm going to say, all right, 7 demos for every 1,000. If I'm sitting out with a brand new rep in training, 7 demos for every 1,000. It never changes, okay? So let's say somebody wants to make $5,000 in income. So I'll take that $20,000 sales goal and I'll say, okay, you're $20,000. Let's say this is during their fast start. It's on day 4, right after their first weekend. All right, so you sold $1,000 your first weekend. So $20,000 minus $1,000 is $19,000 remaining. By the way, what's so important? The how is the implementation, but they first have to have a what? A why. So when they say I want to make $5,000 in income, I first need to figure out why they want this. Why is this important? Whether it's school or family or paying their bills or sense of accomplishment, whatever it is, I need to list out all the reasons why $5,000 is important to them. You can't just come up with an arbitrary number and be inspired to hit it. You got to have the why behind the how. So $20,000 in sales minus the $1,000 they're at is $19,000 remaining. Now, that means that for the summer, Johnny CPO, we need to sell $19,000 worth of Cutco. Now, every $1,000 is 7 appointments. So instead of doing this elaborate goal breakdown, I'm just going to take 19 times what? 7. And that's 70 plus, that's 133 demos, correct? Somebody check my math. So it would be bad if that's wrong because it's on camera. All right, so I'm just going to go with it, roll with it. Everybody agree that's 133? Yeah. Good. 133 demos. I'm going to get a text sometime saying, your numbers are off. All right, so 133 demos. This is how many demos they have to do. Now, then what I'll do is I'll take the number of weeks that they're going to be home for the summer. So let's say it's mid-May and they're going to be home for 14 weeks until they have to go away to college. Okay, well, I'm never going to use 14 weeks because there's probably a vacation week in there. There's probably, a college orientation or something in there. So I'm always going to break it down based on a lower goal, and I'm going to make their drop dead date for when they have to hit that number a couple weeks early. That way it gives some extra room at the end of the summer if they're a little bit behind their goal where they can still reach their goal. So let's say they have 14 weeks. I'm going to break this down based off of a 10-week schedule. So I'm going to take off a couple weeks because I want them to hit it by SC2, or I want them to hit it well before the end of the summer. So I'm going to take these 133 demos, and they might be looking at that saying, holy moly, 133? Well, check this out. 133 divided by 10 weeks, that's 13 or 14 demos a week. Now, with some reschedules and cancels, that means that we need to schedule 16 demos a week. And if you schedule 16 demos a week, then within 10 weeks, you're going to make $5,000 in income. So now, at this point, the only number that matters is what? 16. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a schedule. I'm going to physically take a schedule, and this is a really, really important time management skill that you guys know how to do, but the average rep is absolutely clueless. You take a schedule, and you just do the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You take that schedule, and you come up with a template for how their week is going to work. Now, if they're going to be on a consistent schedule, I would imagine somebody doing 16 demos a week is going to be pretty consistent. I get it, it's crooked. Don't look at me like that. But if they're on a consistent schedule, you make a plan for them. So the key is you put in their demo time. So I always put their daily goals. So it's got to equal 16. But then we'll go through each day and we'll figure out how many demos per day. So let's say that there's a certain day of the week that they're never working. You put a 0 there, but then you put the numbers of how many demos they can do in any particular day, and whatever it comes out to. So the point is, you take those demos, then you make a schedule, but in that schedule has to be a couple things. It has to be their demo times, which we always do based on either X's or dollar signs, but dollar signs are more fun. So you put in the demo times of when they're going to do those appointments, and this is their permanent schedule that they're going to do every single week and fill those slots. Now, once you have the demo times in, the next most important thing to put in is what? And I would say phone time is probably even more important. You guys want to know a trick that's going to create for you that 10K SC2 push? Can I teach you one thing that will guarantee you that you're going to hit 10K for SC2 push? Anybody interested in that? I know you've learned from the best CSPs in the nation, but forget everything they said and just listen to this one thing. So to hit 10K for SC2 push, one thing. 1 hour of phone time for every demo you want booked up prior to the push starting. So let's say that you want to have 25 demos lined up for the first week of SC2 Push, and I think Robert Danbury taught you that he does like 40 demos a week during push weeks. But however many demos you want lined up once the push week starts. So pushes usually start on a Tuesday morning. If you want to wake up on Tuesday morning and you want to have 25 demos lined up for push, you need to have 25 hours of phone time in your schedule leading up to it. Now, that means that you can't just get away with one all-day call day. You need to be doing half-day call days for 4 or 5 days leading up to it. So what I would do is I would be doing my demos during the day, but I would give myself 5 days in a row of 5 hours of phone time. That doesn't mean I'm taking the week off before, because you have to hit the newsletter before any push week, because you can't go from a standstill. You have to have momentum. But I'm going to hit the newsletter, and I'm going to give myself 1 hour of phone time for every demo that I want lined up. So if I want 25 demos, I need 25 hours of phone calls. Our office had our best January ever. We're having our best spring ever, and we absolutely dominated our January program and our push week with our assistants, is because everybody was focused on 1 hour phone calls for every demo they wanted lined up. Colorado Springs office crushed it too. So that was the one trick that we made this year, and I think we had, from our division, we had 19 or 20 people that just got back from Cabo last week from our January trip. It was 19 or 20 from one division, and it was because we did 1 hour phone calls for every demo. So this is basically, it's a little excessive, but it guarantees the result. Have you ever seen somebody phone for a couple hours and they're wondering why they didn't get their schedule fully booked up? Well, it's because they didn't have enough phone time. So to protect yourself and make sure that you guarantee that you're going to hit that goal is 1 hour phone calls for every demo. So if you want to have 10 demos for the week, you need 10 hours of phone time in your schedule. Does it mean that they're going to have to use all of that phone time? No, but you need to have that in there. Now, if they're effectively using 5 before and 5 after, or 7 before, 7 after, then it makes those phone times in there unnecessary, but you have them in there as a backup plan. So as long as they're doing 5 before, 5 after, the schedule should take a life of its own, but you have the phone time in there as backup, as safety nets. That way a rep never has an excuse to not hit their goal. Make sense? I would also plan in when are the phone times that are going to be at home, but also when are the phone times that are going to be at the office. So you plug in the phone time. So on Monday morning, we're going to be at the office for Champions Club, and we're going to do phone jam. Tuesday morning, same thing at the office. Don't be afraid to ask somebody to be at the office a lot. You know, a lot of our students, they're high school seniors or college students, so they're used to being in school, they're used to being on a schedule, and they're used to being told what to do and being given assignments. Sometimes if you give somebody too much leeway, they don't hit their goals because they're used to following a specific schedule or regimen, especially for your graduating high school seniors. You know, so Wednesday, we're going to do evening phone time after that last demo. Thursday night, we're going to come in for the Thursday phone jam. Saturday morning, Champions Club. Sunday night, phone jam. So you plug in all these phone jams to make sure that you know that they're going to hit their goal based on the phone time that they have. So anyway, so that is the schedule goal. But what you do is you create action, you create a game plan, you under-promise, over-deliver by having lower averages when you're breaking down the goals. You break it down on fewer weeks than you need to, and you over-project the number of demos that they need. But if they're committed, let's say a rep is committed to going after 16 demos a week, there's no way that they're not hitting, and they have the schedule to back it up, there's no way they're not hitting $20,000 in sales for the summer. Make sense? But also you're giving reps a clear path to success. Because if you don't break down these numbers and you say, hey, let's work as hard as you can this week, let's see how you can do, then there's no vision, there's no long-term picture. They don't have a reason of why they're working hard this week. It's got to be a cumulative effect. The other thing that I explain to reps is I help them realize that their income at the end of the summer is going to be far greater than their income in the beginning of the summer. So hey, you're going to work hard this week, and we've got 10 weeks, so it's basically $2,000 in sales a week. Now, if you're at 20%, you sell $2,000, how much do you make? Math majors, I know it's Sunday morning. How much do you make $2,000 at 20%? $400. So they make $400. So I'm going to say to a rep, listen, you're going to bust your butt. These 16 demos plus all the phone time, that's probably 40 hours, at least 40 hours that you're putting into your business this week. This schedule is like a 40-hour-a-week schedule. It's a full-time schedule. You're working your tail off. And those 40 hours, you're going to make $400 this week by selling $2,000. You might, sell a couple big sets. You might sell 3,000 or 4,000, and your paycheck is through the roof. But if you sell $2,000 based on this schedule, you're going to make $400. That means that your income is going to be equivalent to your effort that you put in. So when you first start, your income is equivalent. Now realize that at the end of the summer, you're going to be at 30%. or 35% or whatever it is. But at 30%, you put in this many demos, you put in the same amount of effort, and you're making a lot more money. You're making $600 for the same effort that you were making $400 just a couple weeks before. So your effort stays consistent, but your income continuously grows. So you're letting them know that, at the end of the summer, they're going to reap the benefits from the hard work they put in now. So let's say they have a week where they do a ton of demos and they have crappy sales result. I get really excited for it because I'm telling them, you just earned your August paycheck. You're earning your August paycheck because you getting that much closer to your 30% promotion is going to earn you that much money before you go to school. And think about how much you're going to have, how much money you're going to have, by the end of the summer. Or at the end of the summer with those big paychecks. You're going to work less and you're going to make more later. So you teach that inverse relationship of putting in the time now and reaping the benefits later. Make sense? All right, let's talk about 5 keys to creating a great rep. I want you to jot down 5 keys. Oh, I forgot this too. Okay, I'll briefly explain them. The whole point of the breakdown, what I just reviewed, is what matters. Now, the CPO goal, if somebody's super competitive, so in my office, I've got a guy, one of our assistants, Dom, he's super competitive. He wants money, but he really more so cares about beating everybody else. So the CPO goal would just be saying, what's the number in sales that you want to be at by the end of the summer? And that number might be the same. They might say, I want to hit 20K because I want to hit bonus. Perfect. You want to be at 35%, hit 20K. And then what I do is I create the whys. Why is 20K important to you? Advancement, leadership, skills, income, whatever. And then the breakdown is exactly the same, but you just get to it from a different place, because when the rep has ownership of that goal and they know why they're going after that goal, it's so much more inspiring. Does that make sense? Okay, with the schedule goal, let's say somebody is super busy and they have another job or they have summer classes. So I'll use Scott as my example because he had summer classes last year. So when we worked with Scott, we would work backwards. So you end up getting the same schedule, the same deal, but you work backwards. So I say, okay, Scott, let's make your schedule. And if I'm going to make that schedule, I'm going to say, okay, here's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Let's put in your class schedule. So you've got class here, you've got class here. Let's say it's just the same times every day. You've got class all these times, Monday through Thursday. You have these 3 days off, good. Then we have to put in study time. So I always put in class time and study time, but I put in more time in their schedule than they feel like they need. How many hours a week do you need to study? Well, probably like an hour a day. Well, let's give you 3 hours a day of studying. So I will put an excessive amount of studying. That way there's never any excuse. And because I don't want a rep to say, I don't think I can hit my goal because class is overwhelming. So with classes and other jobs, I always over project how much time that's going to take. So if I have all these things in their schedule, and then I say, okay, Scott, let's look at the amount of time that we can do demos. So you could do a demo, one every morning before class starts. You could do one in the afternoon after class before study time, and you have time that you could do 2 every night. Okay, that's just during the week. Then on Friday, you have room for there's 7 that you could do here, 7 you could do here, and 7 you could do here. And then there's room for 4, 4, 4, and 4. So that's 21, 30, that's 37 demos that you could do even with your class schedule. Now let's put in family time. Let's say that you want to, Saturday afternoon by 4 o'clock is like friend zone where you're just hanging out with family and friends. This is your party time. Okay, so you're going to party on Saturday nights. You're going to sleep in a little bit Sunday morning. Let's say that these 3 days a week you're going to go to the gym. Okay, you're going to go to the gym on these mornings. Let's say that you're going to do a lunch date with your best friend after class on this day. And let's say that you have family game night on Tuesday night. Good. What else do we need to put in your schedule? Okay, I know you feel good about that. Let's do another fun night. Let's say Friday night is a fun night too. So you give them plenty of time in their schedule to feel like they're having a great summer. They have all the personal time that they need, class time, family time, study time, and fun time. And then you say, okay, well, how many demos do we have remaining? We still have 4 here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 that we could do on Sunday, but Sunday night's probably a good phone time, so let's leave that blank for phoning. But you could do 3 demos, legitimately 3 demos on Sunday. You could do 4 on Saturday. You could do, let's block this one out, and let's say We need some, all the phone time in here. So this is going to be phone time. This is going to be phone time. Let's say after the gym on this day, this is going to be phone time. Saturday morning, this is going to be phone time too for Champions Club. And let's say Thursday night, this is going to be your phone jam to set up your weekend demos. So we're blocking off all this stuff in their schedule. So it gets me down to 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, 2 on Friday, 1 on Thursday, 2 Wednesday night, 1 here, and then let's give some more phone time Monday night, and 2 on Monday. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Even with a crazy busy schedule, Scott has an opportunity where he can do 14 demos a week very easily and still have a blast this summer. 14 demos is how much in sales? $2,000. So Scott, even with a school schedule, even with a crazy busy schedule and plenty of family time and plenty of friend time and going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, he can sell $2,000 a week. $2,000 a week over 10 weeks of the summer is $20,000 in sales. That's $5,000 in income and 35% promotion. So that way you paint the picture of even with a crazy schedule this summer, you could still put yourself in a position to be on the fair and show team next year, an assistant manager, you make $5,000. There's no other job that's going to pay you $5,000 with the crazy schedule that you have and be able to have the lifestyle and the fun that you're going to have the opportunity to have too. Does that make sense? Does that help for breaking down goals? Wrapping up here, real quick, 5 keys to creating a great rep. If you want to create a great rep in your organization, you're like, you've already given me 60 keys, but okay, here are the five things that make a rep spectacular. And spectacular, I mean guaranteeing dirty 30 by the end of the summer. If you want to guarantee a rep hits dirty 30 by the end of the summer, these are the 5 things that you focus on. Number 1 is hitting the newsletter every week. Again, it's my firm belief that if somebody doesn't hit the newsletter, they are in jeopardy of not being here. They're in jeopardy of not being here because if they sell less than 1,000, their income is not going to support their motivation to stay on. So hitting the newsletter every single week needs to be a non-negotiable. I will never allow a rep to have less than $1,000 goal for the week. If they don't hit it, that's okay, but they are never allowed to have less than $1,000 goal, which means they have to have at least how many demo slots in their schedule? 7. But people reschedule, people cancel, so I have them shoot for 10. So hitting the newsletter means having 10 demo slots they're trying to fill every week, but minimum newsletter every week. Number 2 key to creating a great rep is Mission 100, which we've talked about several times. So Mission 100. If every rep on your team had 100 contacts, names and numbers of people they call, they would never quit. Would you agree? We had several years ago, we had in the South Denver office, we had a $178,000 a week. So $178,000 in 1 week. That week, we had 160 reps turn in orders that week. We had 160 reps on the Rolo report. At that point in the summer, we had only launched 190 reps at that point. So out of the 190 reps that we had launched for the summer at that point, 160 had turned in orders. And that's how we had $178,000 a week. So the key is retention, but we also had 60 reps on the newsletter that week. So getting reps to hit the newsletter and having Mission 100. Because when you have Mission 100 as a culture in your organization, nobody's leaving. Everybody's around. The third key is 5 before, 5 after. We talked about that in detail, making sure that every rep is doing 5 before, 5 after, and that's a culture. The fourth thing is next best 5. We talk about showing somebody's best 5 customers in their first weekend, but why does it stop there? If a rep is always excited about their next best 5 customers that they can call, they're always excited about getting on the phone. You ever have reps that are like, I just don't want a phone, and they're uninspired to phone? Well, if somebody has 5 money customers that they're excited to call, then they're going to be inspired to get on the phone. So you always focus on who are your next best 5. Also, if they show their next best 5, most likely if they show those 5, they're going to hit the newsletter that week. So next best 5 customers. And number 5 is appreciation and recognition. Appreciate. The more you appreciate people, the more you recognize them for the things that you want them to do, they'll continue to do those things. It'll create an incredible culture in your organization. So thank you. That's what I have time for today.
Thanks, Tom.